Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the R Anime Podcast. And today we have a very special episode for you about sound euphonium. And today we have two very special guests. First, we have Jack from Under the Scope. Jack, how are you doing?
Doing great, doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for coming on. We're really excited to have you on. And we also have a good friend of the podcast and a good friend of mine, Maki, or makimaki _ makimaki 0 on Twitter. How are you doing?
Yeah, there you go. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Of course, it was really tough because I wasn't sure how you guys felt about sound euphonium.
It's definitely not clear from either of our Twitter feeds or our output.
No,
it's okay. It's okay.
It's just fine. So I wanted to get the opinion of people who thought UFO was a little better than just okay on this podcast. So yeah, first of all, like Sound Euphonium is directed, the series director is Yamada Naoko, who I feel like the three of us have talked about a little bit.
A couple times here and there.
Maybe in the past, yeah.
Yeah. But before we get into that, and before we get into directing, let's talk a little bit about Sound Euphonium itself. So this is going to be a fairly spoiler-filled episode, but we're going to divide it into season 1 and season 2, and there'll be timestamps below, so you can look at that and go to the relevant seasons that you want. I don't really recommend people skipping season 1 and going into season 2.
Yeah, probably not the best idea.
Probably not. There is a watch order to this. So after you see season 1, you can watch season 1 part. After you watch season 2, you can see the whole thing. If you've seen Liz and the Bluebird and you want to get our thoughts on those, well, the R Anime Podcast has 2 episodes on that already. And who knows if this goes well, and maybe we still have things to talk about with Euphonium. Maybe we'll do an episode with that down the line. But for today, we're just going to be focusing on the TV series. So with that in mind, Sound Euphonium, Hibike Euphonium. How did you guys get into the show?
Jack, do you want to go first?
I can go first. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So my relationship with UFO is a little circuitous in that I first watched it as it aired in, I want to say it was the spring of 2015. Mm-hmm. The first season that I started really following a bunch of anime seasonally was winter of 2015. So I was pretty new to the whole week to week anime scene. And it wasn't exactly love at first sight for me. I think that when I first watched it, I wasn't in the right frame of mind and the right place to really soak it in. And I know that I didn't give it a fair shake the first time I saw it.
That's actually a little surprising.
Yeah. You would think that the person who's built their brand off of this show would have been greatest anime ever from the first episode. 3 years will change a person.
Yeah, for sure.
So back then I want to say I was in freshman year of college, or maybe it was sophomore. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was, I think there were a lot of shows I was watching at the time, and it kind of lost in the shuffle. And so that first time, it just didn't sink in, mm-hmm. I think. And then about the end of that year, I was going over all the stuff that I'd watched that season to do a year-end awards video. And as I was watching clips from UFO, just to refresh myself a little bit, I was like, wait, this was really good. So at that point in time, after I did that whole awards thing, I went back to the series and was like, okay, I'm going to watch this again. We're going to go straight through. And at this point, season 2 was announced and everything, and I knew that was coming the following fall. So the second time I watched it, I absolutely loved it. Mm-hmm. At the time, I don't think I still quite called it my number 1 of all time or anything, but it definitely entered way up into my favorites list. And just seeing Kumiko's story of starting off from this wishy-washy protagonist who's kind of just, goes with the flow, doesn't really know what she wants to do or where she wants to go, and her development, even just over the course of the first season, into somebody who understands and realizes their passion and what that means to them, I think is something that I related a lot to Kumiko at the start of the series, and so seeing that growth throughout the first season really connected with me at the time. And then that only continued on through season 2. And I think by the end of season 2 was when I realized that this was a special series to me that I don't know if is ever going to be topped.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would echo that sentiment, actually, with regards to like relating to Kumiko and her growth. I actually only first saw the series about a year ago, and it's had a huge impact on me personally. At the time, before I watched it, I was actually really adamantly not a fan of Kyoto Animation.
That's putting it lightly,
Wow.
I feel.
Or Yamada Naoko, which is maybe surprising to people who know me now or who follow me on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, that's the truth. I was not a big fan of her. But actually, last year, her birthday, the end of November, Kevin from the Sakuga blog, he has this post that he reblogs or reposts every year for her birthday. It like goes pretty in depth on her work as a director and her growth as a person too. And I, at the time I saw it posted and I was like, well, maybe I'll give this a read. I'll see if it maybe changes my mind about her. And actually, it did. So, like 2 weeks later, on December 15th, actually, which was yesterday, a year ago yesterday, the second teaser trailer for Liz and the Bluebird was posted by KyoAni, and I was like, well, this looks really good. I'm gonna start watching UFO today. And I watched it in 2 days, maybe, because it's like really excellent. And I was really blown away, actually, by the way all the character stories are presented, and especially Kumiko herself. I find her growth in the first season really inspiring and like kind of just really excellent for like an anime. I was like shocked that it was this affecting for me personally. And so actually the rest is history, as my presence here can probably attest to. So
Well, I'm glad that you've been able to make that transition and that you do like the show.
Surprise, yeah.
I know.
You've seen the light.
Basically, yeah.
I know. Liz in the light, more like, am I right?
There you go.
Yeah, for me, I also watched it, much like Jack, when it was airing. For me, it was... So I had started seeing airing anime around spring, summer of 2014. It's went around when I first got my Crunchyroll subscription. And I was like, well, if I'm going to be paying for anime, I might as well watch like some of the airing shows.
Yeah,
Get the most out of it. And until UFO, I don't think I had seen an airing show where I wanted to like think critically about it. I was like, oh, this is fun. Like the shows I was watching were such intelligent luminaries like Sword Art Online 2 and Unlimited Blade Works and Al Noah Zero. So I was watching like really grounded, introspective, realistic shows, as you can imagine. But right before I watched UFO, like in that winterish season, I was kind of like Maki in the sense that I wasn't the biggest KyoAni fan. My close friend had forced me like to watch Clannad. And as someone who was, again, the seasonals I was choosing are not exactly geared towards KyoAni's usual brand of anime. Clannad wasn't really like my cup of tea. So I was like, Clannad. And then like Clannad after story was fine. I was like watching it in the background while playing like Tetris with friends or whatever. And then I got to like episode 15 and I sobbed. I wonder who directed that episode. And then I like was so engrossed, and like especially by like episode 22, again, I wondered who directed that episode. I was just like head over heels in love with it. And then I was like, like okay, so I guess Kyoto has some redeeming qualities, but I'm not the biggest fan. And then I kept seeing like all this talk about K-On! With Yamada Naoko, and like how K-On! Was the slice of life masterpiece and how everyone should watch it. I was like, I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna hate it. I'm gonna hate K-On! I'm gonna be that guy who watches it and hates it. I'm gonna watch it straight through. And I did. I watched it straight through in like 3 days and I like bawled and I loved it. And
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
and it was amazing. And then it was around then that the first Sound Euphonium trailer, like teaser trailer, came out with the Strike the Band track. And then for me, as someone who like played trumpet in middle school and high school for a very long time and almost actually went to school as a trumpet performance major before I was like, hey, maybe I don't want to be a musician professionally.
I've never seen this topic come up.
Never. I was like, oh, this is really cool. They have the Euphonium, which I had played a little bit of. They have like this trumpet girl. I'm like, I'm really excited for like K-On! But with like updated visuals. And UFO is not K-On! With updated visuals. It is very different. And it really challenged my conceptions of what anime can do and what anime storytelling can be. Like you said, Maki, like it wasn't like Kumiko's character development wasn't something I had seen much in anime before, especially not in like a slice of life setting within the space of a single core.
Yeah.
And so like I was head over heels, and like as soon as it ended, I gave it a 10. Like I absolutely loved it. But I was also like, oh, like again, I was still early into like critically watching anime. So I was, for a long time, I think I thought like, oh, like that 10 was just like an early 10. I'll drop it to a 9. I probably didn't like it that much. And then I rewatched and I was like, no, this is amazing. This is beautiful. Why did I ever even consider dropping this? But yeah, it's such a beautiful show, and we've touched on it a little bit, and let's kind of dive into more about Kumiko and season 1 specifically. So season 1 starts off, we have Kumiko, who has just gone into, well, the first opening scene is when she's still in middle school, and they get the dud gold, and she has this very like laid back, like, oh, like relief, we got gold, we didn't really expect to win it kind of personality, and has the confrontation with Reina, whom she'll never talk to again. And then it goes on from there, but that's the baseline we get from Kumiko. And which one of you wants to tackle how season 1 builds off of that baseline first? Jack,
Maki, I'll let you start.
Oh, Maki, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, what? Well, I would love to go. Basically, Kumiko's lost, like at the start of the series. She doesn't have something that she's passionate about. She's at odds with her sister. And the Dud Gold scene with Reina kind of drives that point home for us. And when she like enters high school, the scene with her at the steps with the Kitoguji band with Asuka, and everyone will come to know and love. Their intro scene, they're terrible. And she says this out loud to herself several times. Which
to be fair, they were really bad.
Yeah, they were not good.
Yeah.
They're really not good. And I mean that's what we get from her. And the whole arc of the first season is her finding passion. And I think that's what really resonated with me personally, because I think a lot of people, like myself perhaps, can relate to that. Have felt lost at times in their lives. Don't have something to pour themselves into. And that's why it's such a great first core, because it really covers that entire character development for her. And I think Jack would probably agree that
Right.
that's like very inspirational, and just like really satisfying to watch, especially towards the end, which I think we can get into at some point. But
Right. And I think that opening scene is so crucial in not only establishing Kumiko's character at the start of the series, but Reina's too.
Yeah.
In that, you know, for Kumiko, this dud gold is enough because she wasn't expecting that to even get that much in the first place. She was setting her sights lower. And so, you know, she didn't genuinely believe that they could reach nationals, whereas
absolutely.
Reina wants to be special. She was aiming that high, reaching for the moon. And just that opening scene, the way you see that dynamic between the two, and they keep coming back to that throughout the first season. And ultimately, it's Kumiko's realization of that feeling that Reina had that allows her to discover just how much she cares about this, and is what pushes her towards reaching as high as she can. I think in that first episode too, it's kind of like a really nice little self-contained story in the sense that at the start of it, Kumiko is like she wants this fresh start. She puts on a new hairstyle and everything, and yet no matter what, like throughout that day, she keeps thinking about the concert band and how terrible they were, and like you know, like it doesn't get out of her mind.
Right.
And then by the end of the episode, you know, partly with Midori's like behest and stuff, and saying what she loves about being in the band, Kumiko, like, a part of her starts to realize, like, yeah, she does want that. And so just the turn from the beginning of episode 1 to the end of episode 1, one of my favorite things about it too is just the simple fact of the way she wears her hair, from the ponytail at the start to back to her regular floofy greatness at the end. Little touches like that, UFO is just filled with those little small moments of characterization that tell you so much about how the character has grown throughout the course of an episode or the entire series.
Yeah, there's just so much that the director does in the first episode with the character acting and the tiny, like, unspoken things. Like, one of my favorite moments that is where the homeroom teacher comes in and, like, berates two of the girls for her, like, hiking their shorts up, and, like, Kumiko, like, slyly rolls hers down a little bit. And, like, without telling you anything about Kumiko, or, like, explicitly coming out and being like, oh, hey, like, some random friend coming back and being like, hey, Kumiko, it looks like you're someone who kind of follows the rules. Like, it lets us know what, like, first of all, that she was, like, hiking her skirt up first. And that, second of all, she is someone who's, like, recognizes that what the teacher is saying is important, and that she's gonna try and follow what the teacher says so she doesn't draw her attention. So,
exactly, yeah. One thing, too, that I love how season 1 and in episode 1, too, pulls Mamiko into the story more. Because reading the first novel, Mamiko isn't exactly much of a presence at all in the novel, but she's much more involved in some of these conflicts and story throughout season 1. Like, in the first episode, part of what draws Kumiko to join the band is seeing Hazuki try to make sound, and then that creates a flashback for her of when her sister was teaching her how to first play, and just that memory is kind of what puts her over the edge to join the band. And the Mamiko Kumiko storyline in season 2 is one of my favorites of the whole series. So
yeah, absolutely.
I just love, like, the small ways that is built towards, even in just season 1. When Mamiko is far more of a secondary character.
Yeah, like, I've just started rewatching season 1 because I'm getting my roommate into UFO, because I love listening to Bluebird, and I'm trying to get everyone I can to watch Listen to Bluebird. I'm like, I guess you have to watch UFO. What a shame, right?
Well, you don't need to. Just a disclaimer for anyone who might be listening. You can watch Liz, but we really recommend you watch the TV series as well.
Right.
It's really good. You may have heard us talk about it.
Yes. And, like, watching season 1 and, like, knowing the season 2 Mamiko stuff, like, when Mamiko, like, talks to Kumiko about, and she, like, oh, you wore a ponytail on your first day? Like, you're trying way too hard.
Yeah.
Like she immediately calls her out and immediately recognizes what Kumiko is trying to do, and also says like, "Oh, I guess you're quitting band because you went to Kitauji, of all places," and like really gets to the core of Kumiko really quickly.
Yeah, Mamiko is like a constant. In season 1, she's like really a presence in Kumiko's life, sort of in the background. But she has these moments where she does like take her down a peg, and that's what's so great about the scene later in the series where she says she likes the euphonium. That moment where the viewer sees her growth, where along with Mamiko, we're like, yes. Well, Mamiko's not like yes, but maybe in her heart, I was like yes. That's like one of, I think that, I mean, the Mamiko storyline later on is of course excellent, but in the first season, like her presence as a background character is really like this sort of person for Kumiko to prove herself to, and that's what helps hit it home, I think.
Yeah, because at its core, I've always thought that season 1 of UFO was about Kumiko learning like 3 things: 1, what she loves; 2, who she loves; and 3, that she can love. And I think the third part is the most important, because we see her like be super apathetic, like even to the euphonium. Like she wants to try other instruments, which to me is like blasphemous. As someone in concert band,
she looks so good with it.
I know she does. She seems like a euphonium player, and Asuka picks up on that immediately. I don't know if it's because like she's trying to do a recruiting pitch, but she singles her out, or at least we as the viewer see her single her out. For all we know, Asuka was going up to every first year and being like, "You look like you should join the bass line."
She kind of was.
Yeah, she was a little bit, yeah.
God, I love Asuka senpai. She's great. She's so, like, yeah, and, like, season 1 does set up a lot of these secondary characters. And, of course, like, Asuka is, I guess, a secondary character, but she does have a lot of presence in season 1. Much more in season 2. Yeah. But, like, season 1 sets so much. There's so many details within season 1 of the people who are surrounding Kumiko.
Yeah.
That get built up, and like such a strong foundation is laid.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my favorite things about the series is that it has such a really large cast of characters, but it balances them all so like perfectly in this like balancing act of giving us so much like satisfying characterization for each of them. Asuka, Natsuki, in the bass section, particularly.
Hazuki in that OVA.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, the OVA is like, oh my gosh.
The OVA is excellent, yeah.
Oh my god. I did not expect that OVA to be that good. I don't think I had seen OVAs up until that point that were like as good as the TV series. Like I think when I thought of OVAs, I thought of like the Hyoka like OVA, which is just like a pool episode, or just like random like like the Ura on K-On stuff.
Those are really good, by the way.
Those are fun. Those are really cute, but it's not like extra episodes, and it's like you don't get like more of a fuller picture of side characters. But Hazuki just becomes the star for that episode, and it's really lovely.
And especially since Hazuki was like probably way down the totem pole for me in like terms of characters that I was interested in or cared about. Probably down there with Midori, but like that OVA, like you really get a sense of what motivates her, and just the way that they're able to round the cast out while still making this about Kumiko primarily, is really incredible.
Yeah.
It's through Kumiko's journey through adolescence, which it's not a thing that Yamada Naoko has done in other animes.
No, this is I think the first time I've ever seen that.
I know, but
from her, yeah.
I know, and it's so weird that she does it so well for her first time. But it's like just the moment when Kumiko runs, and like obviously that's like a famous like like watching it airing. I don't know how you felt, Jack, but like for me, I was like, oh, the budget smile will be like the defining moment of this series, and I was like, oh, the mountain scene is going to be the defining moment of the series, and then like we get to the running scene, I was like, oh my gosh, like how does this like keep like getting like showing so beautifully through like these specific markers that we can like clearly go back and see, and the development of Kumiko.
The lighting in that scene is like incredible. I just like every time I watch it, I'm like, oh man, this is just like so beautiful.
On its own, episode 12 is probably my favorite episode of any anime.
Wow.
I totally get that.
I know that most people who watch the series, like, probably like the biggest moment, the go-to episode for a lot of people is episode 8 of season 1, the mountain episode.
Right.
And for good reason, because that episode and that scene is absolutely incredible. But on a more personal level, episode 12 is what really speaks to me the most. And it sounds cheesy, but like it was genuinely life-changing.
Yeah, no,
the
totally.
like second or third time I watched that episode on that later rewatch. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy how it seems so melodramatic, and yet like it maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm preaching to the choir, but it feels like melodramatic and yet also so relatable and realistic. Like, we're talking about how gorgeous it looks and the lighting is so great, but it's like the lighting's from the cars passing by on the highway.
Yeah.
It's like just the way she's running, it doesn't like throw you out at the moment, because a lot of maybe other shows could have like, you know, cut corners and like done a 3D CG shot, because it would have been easier to animate, I'm sure. 3D CG character like running around a corner. But like some part of it, like, and of course some of that goes to Kumiko's VA as well, who does such a phenomenal job throughout the
Tomoyo
series.
Kurosawa is so good.
Yeah, she's really incredible as Kumiko, and like many other roles, but as Kumiko particularly, I feel like her emotion like comes out so well. It's just like so
So natural.
Yes.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
a great way to put it. And something else that is natural is her relationship with Reina and how that develops. And it's like, we talk a lot about Kumiko, but for season 1, I thought it was as much a story about Kumiko as it was about Reina. And
yeah,
Reina
Reina's like
coming-
really steals the spotlight in many moments.
Which is so fitting, because that's who she is.
Yes,
She
absolutely.
belongs in the spotlight.
Yeah. I like think back a lot to like what the earliest moment in the series was that I was like, well, this is excellent. And I think often it comes back to her playing From the New World on the hill above the school, and Kumiko and Hazuki and Mirari listening. That's like her personality. That's like what she wants. And the way she expresses herself, I think the way she inspires Kumiko in many ways it's like a really natural development between the two of them. And I do think also about the moment when Kumiko imagines going to hug her in like
hug
the
her.
second episode. It's like one of my favorite like small side moments. It's so good.
Yeah, the framing in that episode was so good of those like imagined scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Full disclosure, I am ride or die Kumire.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
yes.
that's fine.
Yes. You're among friends. Welcome. You've passed the initiation test.
Yeah. I agree with you too, Maki, about Reina's performance on the hill of that. Like, funny story, actually. The first time that I watched UFO back when it was airing, I had just finished the anime From the New World.
Oh, Shinsekai Yori.
Oh, great.
Yeah, Shinsekai
Yeah,
Yori.
there you go.
So, like, it was just a really strange bit of timing to hear that in consecutive anime that are completely unrelated.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, why am I thinking of this post-apocalyptic, like, futuristic?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, it was one of those things where I was actually really glad I saw UFO before I saw Shinsekai Yori. Because when that tune started playing, I was like, oh, that's From the New World Symphony. How appropriate that they're playing in the anime called From the New World. And then I recently just watched Penguin Drum, where that Mawaru Penguin Drum, where that also makes
You want
appearance.
to talk about another great show?
Yeah.
I actually haven't seen Penguin Drum, full disclosure. So
it's great. It also features from the New World Symphony. So
right, well there you go.
I
That's like all the convincing I need, really.
right.
am first a Yamada stan, and then second an Ikuhara stan.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm glad to see we are among friends once again.
If so, UFO is my number one, and Revolutionary Girl Utena is my number
Yeah,
two.
I love Utena so much.
Utana's so good.
Um,
But yeah, so
anyway, back to UFO.
Back to UFO, yeah. Jot that down, Utena podcast.
I know. Jotting down, putting that on the to-do list. So with Reina, what the interesting thing for me is, I was also in college at that time. I was in my senior year, and I was taking so many English courses and like comp lit courses, and like it was really like the idea of the static character being like such an important fixed point was really like I was really coming to appreciate it, and like Reina came into my life. Like Kumiko has this great transition, right? From who she is at the beginning to who she is at episode 13 is a completely different character.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least outwardly. Reina is like, there's not much different about her, and that's what makes her so important. She's someone who like has continually strived to be great, to be special.
Well, I think what's really interesting about Reina's development, as you note, there's not like a lot visually, or like at least expressed. But there are some things like you can tell that towards the end of the series, her and her audition with Kaori, her little thing with Kumiko beforehand, which is not a scene I'll ever forget.
I felt that was very vaguely very straight and very like non-romantic.
Yeah,
like no
yeah.
love was in that scene, no tension.
Well, so I think about her, Reina, the thing about her is that she does come to think about others a little more.
Right.
And it's through this thing with Kaori and Yuko that she changes a little bit. But it's like you said, she is static. She's gonna continue striving to be like her, the best person she can be, to be special. But I still, like, to me, I think that's like an important aspect of her character. I think about that as well when I think about her.
One thing that's interesting about Reina in the first season is that a lot of the times she's framed higher. Like, especially when Kumiko's in the scene. Kumiko's always framed as looking up at her.
Right.
Like, obviously when they're on, when she's playing from the New World on the Hill, but also a lot when they're practicing in their little spot.
By that wall.
Yeah, exactly. Kumiko's, often always sitting in a chair, and the camera always looks up at Reina.
Yeah.
Or in the same thing in the hike scene when
Right.
they're on Mount Daikichi.
Right.
Again, the camera frames higher up towards her. And I think that just like really lends to to Kumiko's feeling in particular of chasing Reina. That Reina is always reaching higher. She's always trying to be special above everyone else.
Right.
And then in episode 11, it is the audition episode. I think it's interesting that during the very straight scene,
Straight trumpet, right? That's one of the titles of the show.
Yeah, straightforward trumpet, yeah.
during that scene, Reina steps level with Kumiko. And like
The
I think
lighting
that,
of that
that's the
scene,
moment
too.
that that's the moment that they really become on even footing with each other.
Right.
And that Kumiko, I think that's when Kumiko really understands Reina's feeling, which materializes the following episode in episode.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And she doesn't back down either when Reina's like pulling all those hypotheticals that are like way extreme.
Oh
Yeah.
no. Yeah.
Like Kumiko's like, yes. And Reina's like, really? And she's like, probably not. Gonna be honest.
She's like, I will gladly let you murder me.
Yeah, I love that line. That's such a good line.
So good. Oh, God.
Full disclosure, I was in Uji this past summer, and I did the Daikichiyama climb, obviously.
very nice.
And on my way down, I was like taking pictures with my phone and I actually dropped and broke my phone like on the way down.
Oh no!
Oh no!
And the reason this happened is because I was just like crying. I was like, I can't handle this. Like,
Life goals.
yeah,
Were your heels also digging into your heels?
yeah. Actually, yeah. I didn't bring any non-heeled shoes on that trip.
Oh,
So-
that's the other line I love is when
Yeah. Yeah.
Reina's like,
Oh, and then,
like
that's
I don't
kinda
mind,
hot.
I like the pain, and Kumiko's like, that's kind of hot.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Sometimes you forget how straight this show is.
yeah. I think that their relationship is like really great, and no matter, I mean, if you see it as
Right,
straight
right.
or gay or whatever,
All that matters,
there's
like the label doesn't matter, right?
there's like so much going on between the two of them, and they're inspiring each other in different ways. Mostly from Reina to
Right.
Kumiko, but there's like a lot to appreciate there. No matter what, even if you're gonna ship Kumiko with Shuichi.
So
We
back
can
to
go. We can skip
one
that
of, one of
part,
my
but-
other favorite Kumi Reima. One of the other things I really love is when they're on the train, going to the competition, and like they nudge each other, and they're like,
Yeah.
it's just like a quiet, like really close friends moment, and like obviously not something we could expect from like episode 1 when like Kumiko literally gasps in horror very dramatically when Reina walks into the band room.
Yeah, and that's another great scene. But
And I think season 2 is filled with a lot of moments like that. I think that's the one thing about the relationship in season 2 that I love is how organic and natural it feels. Like you really buy into the fact that these two people care about each other a lot, but also fundamentally understand each other.
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
And I know that just like their interactions and stuff are exactly the type that you'd see from any, friends, lovers, whatever you want to say.
Right.
yeah, absolutely.
Just people who love each other.
It's just
like,
it's human, right? Exactly.
Yeah, totally. I think they're super believable. And that's like one of the things that sold me on the series is their closeness is like really like I had friends like that in high school, where we were just like that close to each other. One of my favorite moments between the two of them is like at the beginning of season 2 where they're also on a train, and like Kumiko falls asleep, and Reina just like, like makes her arm a little more
that one.
comfortable, like leans into it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
It's great.
Kyoto and trains.
Yeah.
So many good train scenes. But yeah, so besides Kumiko, Reina, trains, Mamiko, and a little bit of Hazuki, is there... we briefly mentioned Natsuki. I guess we can dive a little bit about her more in the other second years when we talk about season 2, but is there anything in particular like you guys wanted to flesh out a little more about season 1?
I would say that with Natsuki's development in season 1, that's another thing that I really love. Her going from the like lazy senpai
Sleepy
to,
senpai.
yeah, to someone who's like genuinely practicing, like going her hardest, to the point that it surprises Kumiko as well. And they're seen together after the or after the auditions at McDonald's, where Natsuki's just like, man, I like really messed it up, and Kumiko's like, what? Like,
She's so terrified.
yeah, I really like Natsuki, and her change is like really great as well to see.
Natsuki is low-key my second favorite character in
Yeah,
the
she's
series.
great. She's
I
so
love
great.
her. She's her character development is great. Also her design is great. Like that is a great ponytail.
Oh,
first
yeah.
of all.
Yeah, yeah.
But also,
I always think of like the antenna a little bit. I'm like,
oh yeah, the ahoge.
they're cute.
They're very nice. Yeah, like I mean the character designs for Hibike are so good. Like even in like the band shots, like when we were seeing Taki Sensei, who we haven't even talked about at all.
Oh, yeah, we
Taki-
haven't.
Oh yeah,
Really.
can we mention how Taki Sensei is the best teacher in anime?
Yeah,
God,
he's
I love him
awesome.
so much.
I won't let you say bad things about him.
No, protect the Taki Sensei. I must protect that floofy hair.
Oh, I love his hair.
Oh,
A bird could live in that hair.
a bluebird could live in that hair.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, just like from the beginning, right? Like he comes off as like a slightly eccentric guy when like he's at the temple, and like he's the one who knows all the difference between the Kichi Daikichi.
Yeah.
and, like,
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
stuff. And he's listening to the performance that Kumiko and Reino were in when they were in middle school.
Yep, of Orpheus in the Underworld.
Yeah.
More commonly known as the Can-Can Dance, which I love, like the original title being Orpheus in the Underworld and that being what we know it as.
Yeah.
And on the rewatch with my roommate, just like he like instantly picked up when like Taki Sensei is asking like, so what are your guys' expectations for the year? He's like, oh shoot, this is a trap. Do not mess with this guy. This guy has murdered people. That's why he doesn't have a baton, because he like left it in his last victim after stabbing him to death.
I really like Taki a lot. And
Taki, not even Taki Sensei. That's how close you guys are.
Well, I'll call him Taki Noboru, just to be like full name. I think his appearance at the start, like I really like that he's not even like really a presence until that when he's like asking them to decide their goal, because the viewer's like, all right, this is like, you know, their new conductor. But then he like becomes such a driving force for the entire series, obviously. But I just love that the start with him, where you're like, who is this guy? Like, what is his deal? Why is he like this? And you know, you get a lot of that in season 2 more with his backstory. But he's like a great aspect of season 1 that's sort of like driving the band forward. And I really like him during when he's like helping them train. He's like instructing them and stuff, and he's like only nice to the bass section. And you're like, why is that? But it's I really like his character. I like that he's always late to the performances. That's another nice touch.
He's got just enough of J.K. Simmons from Whiplash in him.
I was gonna say, because like it was such perfect timing, because I believe like Whiplash had come out only like maybe like 4-ish months before Hibike dropped.
Yeah.
And so there are all those like Whiplash, like not my tempo crossover memes.
Yeah, there were a lot of good memes. But at the end of the day, like too, I think what I love so much about Taki as well is just how much he cares.
Yeah. And
like in episode 12 too, one of my favorite moments with him is when Kumiko goes back to the school to get her phone that she left behind.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then she asks him, like, you know, oh, your father was a famous musician. Like, is that, you know, why do you do it? And he's basically just like, because I like it. And like that realization dawns on Kumiko that, and at the time while she's struggling with not being good enough, she realizes that like that's okay, because all you need is to like it to do it. And then Taki also encourages her afterwards to keep practicing the part that she's struggling with. Like that moment. Oh yes.
I still haven't
Taki,
forgotten.
you are the best.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good. I love that scene so much, and I loved it even more. I believe there was an interview translated by Ultimate Mega X about that scene, about how the episode director for that like changed the wording and changed like the meaning to have that encouragement, to have Taki Sensei say.
I'm pretty sure that Yoshiji Kigami did that episode.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm shocked that it was Kigami at Kyoto Animation. And it's so wonderful. It's so good. The relationship like he has with everyone else, and like how he comes off as so stern, right? When he's like, what, like he doesn't say what is this shit when they like come off of their quote unquote sectional practices and try to do the Marines hymn. But he basically says, what is this shit?
What is this? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, he does say that.
In as many words, yeah.
In as many words. But after they try, like he really gives it all to do his best for them.
Yeah.
And one of the things that like kind of endeared me was, again, you guys mentioned the fact that he's always late, and it all like after watching season 2, and this is gonna be a weird like, because of my shonen background, like I kind of got like Kakashi Sensei backgrounds from him from Naruto, because like Kakashi Sensei would also always be late, and that's because he was visiting the graves of his friends before going to any meeting or whatnot.
I vaguely remember that. I read Naruto many years ago.
And like with Taki Sensei, like I always kind of had this image that like that maybe that was what was happening, because Taki Sensei and his past gets brought up more in season 2, as well as his relationship with Reina, which had a bit of a clamp feel to it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
which I feel like not as many people talk about. I feel like it's the bachelor uncle that nobody really minds at holiday parties, and we just accept that it's there and we try not to address it.
Personally, I actually know a lot of people like complain about this. I personally think that Reina's thing for Taki is like really cute. I totally agree with Kumiko on that one. And like people, I really don't like that very much. But I think it's an interesting element of her character, and it's an interesting aspect to the story that actually makes it feel more real to me personally. I knew people like that in high school.
It's certainly believable,
Yeah.
especially given the role that Taki played in her getting into music in the first place.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
From an early age, like they were so close to begin with.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm okay with basically most of what we've seen so far between it, as long as it's treated as like the adolescent crush, innocent crush that it is.
And I
now
don't
it's
ever
like,
feel
okay,
like
now that the confession has happened, it's like, all right, we are ready to turn a page here.
right.
Yes.
That's the sense I get, at least. I never have felt like it's like you brought up clamp. I've never felt that it crosses into like real extreme territory. And
Right.
you know,
There's no proposal between
I
the
still
teacher.
love Cardcaptor Sakura personally,
Yes.
but
Yes. Same here.
which is not what we're talking about.
No.
It's like, of course, I mean, yes, Reina says that it's not just a crush and that she really loves Taki, but of course she would say that.
Yeah, that's
Right,
absolutely
yes.
That's what
it
somebody
is.
who
Yeah.
has those feelings would
Yep.
say.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's the unreliable narrator.
Oh, it's so
Yeah,
adolescent.
exactly.
Yes. Oh my god. But yeah, cause like we get to be on our high horse and be like, oh, like how but like I remember being like 13, 14 and like my friends and like we like having crushes on teachers and being like, oh man, like that teacher is really cute, when like you're first like starting to like be like, hey, like other people can be really cute and I don't have to make fun of them.
Yeah.
And like
It goes a little further than that for Reina,
right.
but
I was trying to keep it PG.
yeah.
I mean, she does take Kumiko to go visit Taki's wife's grave.
Yeah.
That might be the one time. That was probably the one time that it went like a little too much for me. I was like, okay, Reina, dial it back.
Okay, Raina.
We can get into that when we make it to season 2. I don't think we've actually finished talking about season 1 yet.
It's okay.
Oh man.
Jumping around a little bit. That's
a
fine.
little bit, but it's fine. And like, we'll get back to Taki's tempo eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just like Taki, I really liked him. I really liked Kaori as well.
Yeah.
Just like she felt like at first she kind of felt like the victim of circumstances, but then I loved how she owned it.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
she was like, Yuko is being really annoying right now, like champion on my behalf. But then like a part of her like is so competitive, and I found that so realistic as someone who played trumpet. It's like having irrational self-confidence is like so important in trumpet players. And just like, and like I gotta say, like that whole solo thing just felt too real almost to me, because like I kind of had that when I was in high school as the freshman, and then there was the senior who had been there for a while, and like solo coming up for a concert, and it's just like you don't know where to stand. But I loved the fact that Kaori was just like, no, like if I go out, I'm going out on my own terms. Like I'm gonna try really hard for this, and like I'm not going to let my Kohai, my underclassmen, down in Yuko, and I'm not gonna let the band down. And if Reina deserves it, she's going to have to work for it, and the better one will play.
I respect that a lot.
Yeah, I really love that she takes the opportunity when it's given to her. I think her character is really interesting in that she does she does play like a role that's sort of in the back, which is surprising for a trumpet player. She's very modest.
Right.
But when push comes to shove, she is like, I do want this. And I
Right.
think that's another great, that's something really great about her character. And I also really like her relationship with Haruka, the club president. When she goes to visit her, when Haruka's like depressed about what's going on in the band.
I love Haruka. She's so
Haruka's
good.
Yeah,
so good.
she's really good. She's a good one.
Yeah. And speaking of saxophone players, Aoi is such an important character in the
Yeah,
show.
yes.
Like the fact that there is someone who quits the band. It sets us up for a little bit for storylines in season 2. But also like because it's Kumiko's childhood friend and it's someone who does step down from something they enjoy. So it gives Kumiko another sense of like the choices that people make and the sacrifices that sometimes people have to make, and understanding that like if you give up, you have to complete. Like you can't half at it 2 things.
Yeah.
You like really fully commit, and like Aoi does that. She fully commits to studying. She fully commits to going to cram school, and that's like that's really honestly respectable.
Right,
guess-
and she pops back up a couple times throughout throughout the show,
Yeah.
and especially at moments when Kumiko is unsure. Like in episode 12, I know she comes and Kumiko asks her like if she regrets her decision, and Aoi says no, she doesn't. That you know she feels good about what she's doing now, and ultimately doesn't feel like she's missing anything like for her, you know.
Right.
And I think that's part of what helps Kumiko realize that she isn't that same way. Like if she left concert band, she would be missing something huge.
Right.
And just Aoi kind of plays this foil to Kumiko throughout that throughout season 1, and then even into season 2.
Yeah. And she makes that opposite decision, Kumiko.
Exactly.
She decides I can't be that. I like Euphonium.
Yeah, and she wants to get better. She doesn't want to let things stay as they are.
I really like Aoi's line about when she's talking to Kumiko about the vote. And Kumiko notably did not vote.
Right.
And Aoi says that she maybe voted as an alibi to say that she didn't want to go to nationals.
Right.
She votes against going to She votes
Right.
to take it easy or whatever.
Right.
Taki's wording is. I think that's really interesting. I think I really like that moment.
And of course, Kumiko, being the wishy-washy person she is, abstains from the vote.
Right, exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
and Aoi also says, "Isn't that unfair? The person who didn't vote."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Calls her out on it.
Right,
Yeah.
which I love. Ugh.
Yeah.
Spared, no. She's not spared at all, and it's
No.
just like overall, it was just like so tightly written and directed. And that's something I want to touch on before we get to season 2, because it's not a thing we can talk about as much with season 2, which is, of course, Yamada Naoko's presence as the series director in season 1. And like her fingerprints are like all over this.
I'm really glad that she took that role and left the overall directorial position to Ishihara, because I think that I know Yamada in interviews she said that she wanted that position with UFO more so that less of like the organizational stuff and she could focus more on like really diving into individual aspects of the series. And I think that really comes through. Episode 8 in particular has
absolutely.
Yamada fingertips all over it.
I mean, Haruka Fujita is basically like a Yamada disciple.
Exactly.
Essentially her
Exactly.
protege, yeah.
Right. Which is so amazing to see. Gosh, I could do another episode on Haruka Fujita.
No kidding.
Maybe we should, yeah.
I mean, Fujita essentially did what Yamada did for UFO, she did for Violet Evergarden.
Exactly.
Right,
Yes. Exactly. Yeah, and it's just, gosh, like episode 8, it was I thought that was a Yamada episode, but like Fujita did such a beautiful, gorgeous job with that, and like so young too. So it's just really awesome seeing like Yamada continue that like excellence and that standard at Kyoto Animation. And like the directing was great. The animation style is like, so like, you know, there's always the memes about the KyoAni face, but UFO just seemed so like polished and different than anything that had come before. It was just like, it was almost like hyper realistic for anime.
I would
Or
say
like,
that when I first watched it,
Mm-hmm.
I was like shocked that it was as beautiful as it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really like gorgeous looking show. Character animation wise, backgrounds, the lens usage
Mm-hmm.
is something we can talk about a little bit. In the first season is particularly because of Yamada and Ishihara's
Mm-hmm.
love for that. And
Well, it
that,
really shines through in the first episode.
yeah,
Right,
oh
there's
yes.
so much bokeh, especially with
Yeah.
the cherry blossoms when like
Yeah.
Kimiko blows and
Mm-hmm.
like
Oh,
That's
yeah.
first of
that's
all,
like so yeah.
that's like a fuck you. We have like budgets.
Yeah, it's like really beautiful. And I was when I first watched it, I was like, oh yeah, like I remember I had seen like Tamako Love Story and Tamako Market and hadn't seen her other work in between her episode director work. I did see Koi before watching this, but it's like really a moment where you're like, oh yeah, that's who's directing this. Like that's the mindset they have when they're when they're making this. Yamada and Ishihara, Yamada especially, talks a lot about filming anime, like examining the subjects, and that's like really a lot what that moment makes me think of. Ishihara mentions in an interview, he talks about how it's like an Instagram filter or something.
yeah.
Like an app filter or something,
Right.
he says.
I
Which
wish I
think is
could
pretty
have
funny.
that bokeh filter.
Yeah, it's pretty gorgeous for an app.
Yeah. It was gorgeous. I mean, Jack, I'm sure you've never really talked about the animation of Euphonium before or how gorgeous it is.
I think I've gushed about everything you could possibly gush about UFO in videos in the past.
Just like season was great, and I really appreciate Yamada doing that because she was also busy, right? And her workload would only get more busy because she would
Right.
get staffed on Kono Katachi or a silent voice after this.
In the production of season 2, the first half or so of the production of season 2 overlapped with her working on Koi no Katachi. So
Right.
Yeah, she
she was
doesn't
still
show
credited. She's still credited as series director, but
Right.
you
Yeah.
don't really start to see her influence come until the later portions again.
up. Yeah, really, she's not really there as in a real hands-on role until
Correct.
like episode 12.
Yeah.
Till the very
like the
end.
very end. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah. And I guess this is how we can transition into season 2 and talking about it.
Perfect.
But it's really interesting because first of all, the first episode starts with an hour-long special.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is this Yamada's work? Is this Yamada's work? But then when you get to episode 12, like immediately, like when it's a Yamada directed episode, you don't really have to question it. It's like blatantly obvious. But
Yeah, she storyboarded 12 together with Kigami. And Kigami actually directed that himself, but you really do sense her there. And actually, I would mention that in the first episode, it's half directed by Fujita. And you can feel that as soon as like the
Yes.
Right, yeah. Ishihara does the first
yeah.
half,
Right.
and Fujita does the second.
Yeah, and
Right.
it's like really noticeable.
right, especially because like the Haruka Fujita purple with the fireworks and all
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, so season 2 picks up where season 1 left off. It starts off with them at a festival, but it also there's like 2 distinct halves to season 2 as well. There's the first half with Mizore and Nozomi, 2 characters who may or may not play a larger role in the Euphonium franchise later on.
Just maybe.
Just maybe.
From everything I can tell, it's worth noting that Nozomi does not appear as a character until season 2. I don't think. I have not found a shot of her in season 1.
The time that she shows up in season 1 is when she goes to sit down for their competition at the end of season 1. There's one shot of her
you're right.
sitting down
Yes.
in the
Yeah.
in the
When they
audience.
go to
I
the
remember
flutes,
that.
A
yes.
single shot, yeah.
Yeah.
That's their
Right at
way
the
of
very end.
introducing her, yeah.
It is, yeah.
Which is cool because like it actually gets brought up in season 2 in this first arc. We're talking about Mizore and Nozomi. Nozomi. Well, actually, let's get to that later.
So we have that first half.
Yeah, so we can talk about it in order.
We have the first half, which deals with the 2 of them, the audition process to become a part of the band and be re-entered into a part of the band.
Yeah.
With Nozomi and the training camp that they go through. And then the second half that dives a lot more into Asuka Senpai and the actual competition and her backstory. And honestly, like, when I think about it, I'm like, I can't believe they were able to dive so much into those two distinct arcs in one season, one core.
And the Kansai competition forms the perfect barrier, but like break between the two.
It really does, yeah.
So, Maki, as someone who has a Mizore,
yeah, I would say that I'm maybe a Nozomizo expert. Yeah, so the first half of the season, or rather the first, really the first 4 episodes, including the first episode, which is double episodes, so like the equivalent of 5 episodes, focuses on Nozomi and Mizore and their relationship. Nozomi quit the band in season 1. Oh, actually, the other moment that she shows up, there's a flashback in season 1 to when she quit the band. There's like when they're going into this, like, you know, what happened between them. What happened between the former first years and whatever.
Yeah.
That's like her with the top of her head cut off, also in season 1. So there's 2 places actually.
So you say you're a Nozomizo fan? I don't believe.
Nozomizo expert, I would say.
Yes, expert. Whose drunk thoughts have been favorited by Pony Canyon USA on Twitter.
Yeah.
I know that Mizore appears as early as the first episode.
Yes. She does, yeah. Oops.
But yeah. Yes, it's just gorgeous. And so Nozomizo, Maki, continue.
Did I just drop out from this?
I think you did.
Magically? Okay, sorry about that. I'm here.
Worries. Hi. Hello.
Hi.
I think
Welcome
your
back.
internet couldn't quite handle how much you love Nozomizo.
Yeah, probably not.
In fact, now on my screen, it's showing 2 Makis.
There's 2 Mizore, absolutely. That's interesting. Sorry about that.
No worries.
But yeah, so the first arc of season 2 is about the 2 of them. Nozomi attempting to rejoin the band, which she ultimately does, and about Mizore and her reaction to this, which I think a lot of people found difficult for them to watch right away after the first season. It marks a tonal shift to the more personal, slightly more intense season 2. Later you have Asuka and Mamiko, but at the beginning with Nozomi and Mizore, their relationship forms those first like 5 episodes, and I don't know, what am I trying to say? They're great. I will actually admit that I didn't like love it the first time I watched it, their arc. I thought it was good, and I liked both of their characters. But after watching Liz, and coming back to the show, watching it a couple times after that, it's like really actually incredible to me, the way their interpersonal, their feelings for like about each other. It's not even for each other necessarily. Like at that point, Mizore, I'm kind of like obsessed with Nozomi a little bit, but it culminates in season 2, episode 4, which is directed by Ogawa Taichi. And the moment when they are like on the same page, maybe like Nozomi is like, this is a misunderstanding kind of, but also you're right to be upset about me leaving the band without telling you, is like a major point in the series that had up to that point focused mostly on Kumiko. The show starts diving into their relationship, and then later Asuka and her problems. But in the first half of this, you have the 2 of them.
Right. And so this arc is probably the one that's gotten the most flack from even from fans of the show. That they're like, yeah, no, this is always the one to point to is like probably the one that's not exactly their favorite point of the show. And while I guess I would tend to agree, one thing that I see some people say is that the arc feels out of place. and that because as soon as it's over and we go through Kansai, then we're back to Kumiko playing, you know, a pivotal direct role in the conflict with her sister and with Asuka. But I don't agree with that. Like, I think that this arc is crucial in setting up the later arc of season 2.
Yeah.
And that, for one, you have the fact that Kumiko at this point, while she better understands herself and what she loves, she still kind of plays this, is on the periphery with the people around her.
Yeah.
And she's not exactly in tune with her feelings towards others. And I think that her role in this arc is more of just kind of that spectator. That observer.
She watches.
Right, exactly. And we watch through her.
Yeah.
And so that's something that Asuka will later call her out on.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that establishing that with this arc and also seeing two people in Nozomi and Mizore communicate their feelings towards each other in the way that they do, I think that sticks with Kumiko.
I absolutely agree. I think that is like sort of a prelude to Asuka's confrontation with Kumiko later on.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really necessary, and I think, like, even before I had seen Liz and the Bluebird, I thought, like, it was so important for the UFO franchise, because on the like, even with that, it would almost be, like, unrealistic for everything to always revolve around Kumiko.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, there's going to be band drama, like, with other instruments, with other groups, and especially when there was such big band drama the year before.
Yeah.
That has to, like they hinted at it from the start, there has to be something that they address.
Yeah, and we
about it.
finally get that in this arc. Like, that's how Nozomi is introduced to us. Is she's like the one who quit the previous year and brought a lot of people with her.
Right.
And that's actually something that Natsuki brings up as well. Nozomi was formerly the president of or leader, whatever, of the at their previous middle school, where she and Mizore and Yuko were all in the band together. Natsuki was not, but Natsuki mentions that she looked up to Nozomi. This is another moment where I'm going to talk about Natsuki. She mentions that she, like, looked up to Nozomi. And that's, like, what brings Natsuki to the forefront again. Is she's, like, trying to help Nozomi to get back into the band by, like, appealing to Asuka. And that's another thing that ties into later on. We see Asuka's, like, really nasty side, actually.
Right.
Especially at the end of this arc, where we get her perspective on Nozomi and Mizore, where she sort of calls out the two of them to Kumiko in private.
Right.
That's also her confiding in Kumiko, actually, a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I love that scene. I think it's the perfect setup to what's about to come next. And I love the way that, like, when Asuka says what she does, like, Kumiko, there's a shot of her, like, tensing up with her, like, her fist and stuff. But then she kind of, like, she just awkwardly, like, blurts out, like, I don't know about that, like, you know. Like, she's still clear, she's holding back. You can really tell that she's holding her feelings about what Asuka said. She's holding it back. And ultimately that's going to be what happens in the next arc, is that she has to communicate those feelings and let them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's something that I think when I first, like, was starting to see and, like, hear that Yamada wasn't as involved, because we were hearing that while it was airing, I actually got nervous that this wouldn't be resolved well. And it wasn't so much that, like, I didn't trust the rest of Kyoto Animation, or I didn't trust, like, the obviously very talented staff that they have, but I felt like specifically Mizore and Nozomi's relationship was something that, like, Yamada could do so much with. And obviously we do see that eventually that is the case. But in essence, like, while, like, there, of course the relationship is so important, but yes, like, as we go towards, like, it's also very important to showing, like, Kumiko's relationship with Asuka. It's like, it's like one of those, it's almost like a, I don't think misdirection is the right term, but it's like you see their relationship through this, like, You
Yeah.
see Asuka and Kumiko's through Mizore and Nozumi's.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
I think
Go
that
on.
if there's one thing about this arc that isn't necessarily my favorite, is that in general I think UFO is at its best when it feels human, like when it has that natural feeling to its conflicts and its characters. And there are some points in this arc where like it does, I think, dip a little too much into the over the top melodramatic, category.
Yeah, the moment in episode 4, particularly with Mizore like running down the hallway, I think is what a lot of people point to as that.
Yeah. And I think the only other time I really think of that is some of the points with Yuko in season 1 also start to dip into that. But I think this is probably the point that people really latch onto. Where it's like a little too much.
Because they're like new characters, so it makes sense to me that
Exactly.
this is like what people latch onto. But I would say if you're listening to this, you didn't like this arc, if you haven't seen Liz, really recommend it.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing. It's like now having watched Liz and the Bluebird multiple times.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Gorgeous.
Coming back to this arc is a little bit difficult. And that's not exactly that's not a commentary on saying that like it's handled poorly here. It's just that Liz handles these two characters so well.
Well, I think what's interesting about the going from this arc to Liz is a lot of stuff that's in Liz is really set up here,
right?
For
in
sure,
a lot of ways
sure.
that you are going to pick up on more after you see Liz. Like when I went back to this, I was like, oh my god, there are like these like moments between the two of them that now destroy me a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
I think just Yamada's she has such a pulse on her characters and how to communicate their feelings to the viewer.
Right.
That I think that this arc, that's probably the biggest thing it's missing.
Yeah. It's like the most Yamada thing, and that we don't get into. But like, if I had to choose, I would have if we could only get her in one. I think I prefer the Liz and Bluebird. It's also weird going from Liz and Bluebird and going to this just with how Mizore looks. 'Cause Mizore looks like so anime-ish.
So different, yeah.
She like looks like them like up there with like Yuki Nagato as like the premier like Rei Ayanami XP clone ripoff.
Well, the TV series designs are a lot like rounder, especially in the face.
Ikeda's,
than
her
the Liz
designs are very
designs.
much,
Yeah,
and
the
especially
hairstyle.
Mizore, like it's probably the starkest with her.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say that Haruka Fujita, her half of the first episode that she directed, the segments with Nozomi and Mizore, like on the bus, great. They're great. They're great. And especially with the aspects of the two of them, what they like say to each other then that sets up the rest of the arc, what Nozomi saying, let's go for gold in high school.
That scene legitimately has one of my favorite shots in the entire series. The reflection shot of Mizore looking out the window of the bus with like the
great.
lights going by. Oh,
So good.
It's wonderful,
beautiful,
yeah. I also really like the the Minami Middle School performance of the Palavtsian dances. Really great. If you haven't given it a full listen after Liz, it's really nice to hear the flute and oboe.
Yeah, I mean, the
sorry, I just
Palavtsian
keep talking about
waltz-
Nozomizo.
Yeah, the oboe solo is like one of the most famous in like classical. like,
absolutely
music.
beautiful. Yeah.
It's like the oboe solo repertoire. Like you hear it so often. Like it, like oh my gosh, the fact that like Mizore can play that in high school so well.
Middle school.
Yeah, in middle school, it's like yeah, duh. That's like probably the most unrealistic part. Oh god.
They all play suspiciously like college students or professionals.
It's almost as if they got a college band to record for this.
I really love listening to the performances, though. Are so nice.
My favorite part about the CD is that they have like the before Taki Sensei and after Taki Sensei
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
versions of certain pieces, especially in season 1. I really love that. But yeah, so that's Nozomizo, and of course that's dived into a lot more in Liz and the Bluebird, which we love. But I, at least, and I'm sure both Maki and Jack love what happens next with Asuka and the Asuka arc, which I honestly don't think I ever saw coming. I just figured Asuka would be like a perpetual off main character, like not completely side character, but like just off to the main and like never really fully like deep dove into.
Mm-hmm.
But they do such a good job of like breaking down her walls, and like right, and like in season 1 we already see like she gets antsy when like they ask her like, who do you want to recommend for the solo, and she's like, I literally do not care, just let's just play, like that's all I care about. And then you get to realize why, and that is just so well done for me.
I had been waiting for them to peel back Asuka's facade ever since the first time I watched season 1. Like, her character really intrigued me, because even in season 1, especially in some of her interactions with Kaori, like you get a sense of the like actual real person that Asuka is. And every time they peel back the curtain just a little bit, it's pretty startling, right? Like when you see Asuka, like when she lets her actual thoughts leak out. Like even in season 1, like I know one point is when Hazuki is like sad because Shuichi rejected her and stuff like that, and they ask Asuka's opinion, and she's like, I don't give a shit.
She's because
like,
this,
you need to keep these personal matters out of the band. This is a waste of time,
right?
And
they're
really
like
blunt.
wasting like performance time essentially, because
rehearsal
like,
time, right?
Because Hazuki like keeps messing up,
right?
And Asuka's like, let's play, like let's get real here.
I love the sound she makes. She's like, she's like rocking
back and forth in her chair in that part.
She's like, shut up.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I also really the parallel with Mamiko, Kumiko's older sister, is between her and Asuka. Asuka's like inability to be upfront about what she wants, in like a way that she like allows herself to fall out of the band. Not like allows, but her mom. Sorry, I can't talk about this.
Oh god,
it's really intense.
It's really tough.
Yeah, her mom. The start of this really is Kumiko witnessing her mom like slap her in the office. But Taki like essentially saves her in a way, saying he has no intention of allowing her to drop out of the band, because he doesn't think that Asuka wants that.
Right.
And Asuka can't say that at the time. And I think like the way that it progresses from that, especially from Kumiko's point of view, with the parallels to Mamiko, really got to me personally.
One of my favorite scenes of the entire series is at the end of episode 9, where Asuka plays Hibike Euphonium by the river for Kumiko. It's just it's so beautiful. And I love how in that episode Asuka says, tells her that it was her father that wrote the piece, and it was in the notebook that he gave her with her euphonium. And she says to Kumiko, maybe I want you to hate that piece. But Kumiko is just like, no, I love it. And she says it's so warm and strangely kind. And, that's when they go, and Kumiko says she wants to hear her play it now. And so that's when they go and she plays it for her by the river. And just, you get a sense of like, for Kumiko, she plays that support role so well. Like she knows when a person needs encouragement, and she finds the right words to say. And I think that's where the inspiration for Asuka's, telling her she's the most euphonium-ish kid she's ever seen.
Because that's what the euphonium does. They support it. Yeah. And it's, oh god. Also, I think I've mentioned this in other places before, but I want to get this out there that one of the things I love most about Yamada and like Yamada works that she does, that isn't present in all of Kyoto Animation's works. Like it's not in Haruhi, and it's not in whatchamacallit, no, actually it is actually in a lot of like Clannad, is that in UFO here they build up to saying the title of the show in the show.
Yeah.
Like they have the whole sound euphonium thing. I was like, oh, but that's why it's called sound euphonium.
Oh, the reveal at the end just like really.
Oh, when she
like,
gives her
Oh
the,
man. Yeah.
because we don't
I cry
understand
every
that
time.
I know.
yeah.
No, literally, like yeah.
And then you're like, oh, so that's why the whole thing was sound. Oh, okay.
There are
I was
very
a lot-
few. There are
yeah.
very few scenes in anime that I can like just watch completely out of context. Like just pull it up on YouTube and watch completely out of context and still just make me a wreck. But that's one of them.
Yeah.
That I love that so much. And like there's the Family Guy like clip, right, of them saying like, oh, like I love it when they say the line of like the title of the movie and they're
Roll
like
credits,
this
yeah.
is that's why it must be Superman 4, the quest for peace. And they're like, oh, that's what I call it. But like here it comes up so organically.
Yeah.
It's not like, so what is this, some kind of sound euphonium?
It really it's
yeah.
it's a moment. I feel like it's like a really defining moment for the show as a whole.
Because there's so many
And-
layers to it, right? Because like we
Yeah.
also talked like how Kumiko is the euphonium, like how
Yeah.
she represents
She's
that so
such a
much.
euphonium. Yeah.
And to resound, to sound, to
Yeah.
make noise, and to like echo. Oh God.
Yeah,
Also-
it's part of that. It's part
yeah.
of that arc, like
Yeah.
Kumiko coming into her own and being able to talk to Asuka in the way that she does in their confrontation, which is a pretty significant scene.
Yes.
Also,
Yes. Also, thank you to Asuka for letting us know that Kumiko is like the most gorgeous crier in anime. Like, my gosh, can she not cry without being like absolutely a beautiful scene?
and Kurosawa Tomoyo's
Yeah.
acting is amazing.
I
So
think that Moyo's performance in that scene in particular, that's up there with one of my favorite voice acting performances in a single scene. Period.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
Moyo as Kumiko is my favorite role. Period.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, no, it's up there for me. Like Saori Hayame as Shoko is up there for me as well. But like,
Yeah.
just like Kumiko, just like sound like you forget that she's an anime character, because a lot of anime characters get like the really super high pitched moe voice, but like Kumiko, like the gah.
Yeah.
There's so much there's so much like authenticity to Moyo's acting
Right.
as Kumiko,
Right.
and I think that's like one of the things that sells it so well. Like that
Yes.
scene is just
Exactly.
so great.
Because we've already had that foundation of she sounds so authentic. So when this melodramatic scene happens, we're not put off by it. It doesn't take us out of nowhere. We're not like, oh, like, wow, like what a like hashtag melodramatic anime, manipulative anime feelings. No, it feels like a genuine person like going through like this really tumultuous thing and like going
Yeah.
through a whole wave of emotions that they don't want to cry, but they just are crying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I absolutely think it's Moyo's performance that sells this scene.
Yeah, totally.
Like you said, if you put a more melodramatic soap opera type voice behind this, I think it just completely changes it.
Right.
It's because her voice here is so natural. Right. And one thing that I loved and thought was really interesting between season 2 and Todekatai Melody, the recap film, is that they re-recorded all of the lines for that film.
Right.
And like they wanted to do that, and I know like they were instructed, Moyo in particular was instructed like to make their voice as natural as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's even something you can see between season 1 and season 2 at certain parts, particularly comparing early season 1 to later. Like season 2, I think you can tell the slight difference in their voice for a lot of the characters, particularly Kumiko and Reina. It sounds so real.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like it's almost subtle. Like you don't explicitly come out and be like, "Oh wow, yeah, they've definitely changed their voices. I see what you're doing." It's more like
It's
something feels different for real. I can't put my
It really just like matches the change in atmosphere between the two seasons, especially the start of season 1. It like really it just does wonders for the content in season 2.
and particularly with Kumiko and Reina's relationship.
Yeah.
Like as we said, like their relationship feels more natural, and so for their voices to reflect that as well, you know, speaks a lot.
Right. Yeah. No, and like Asuka's voice acting is so top notch because
Minako Kotobuki, she's great.
Yeah, you would never imagine that she also played Mugi in K-On!
It's so true.
She's great as Mugi too, but
she's also great as Mugi.
Totally different. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how Satomi, is that the voice actor who did Ritsu and Chitanda, Ritsu and Keihan and Chitanda and Yoka, just like to complete like whoever is like in charge. So I'm sure like multiple people are in charge of the casting process and the casting decision, but like with this show in particular, like you have such a wide range of characters, right? And like maybe like it takes a lot of foresight from the beginning to be like, I want this person for Kumiko because of what's going to happen in season 2, or like I want Asuka to start from here so that because we know she has the range to like take it up a notch, or like understanding the actors and what they can like really bring out of a show, because like we said, if there was a more melodramatic person for Kumiko, it wouldn't have worked. If there was like a like someone who couldn't do the range of Asuka, like from the very first episode of the series, right? She's like doing the "Come on, join us."
I love that line.
It's so lively and fun and fake to her.
Yeah.
But if you don't sell it that way, like it doesn't hold that weight.
I love the way that in this scene, in particular in episode 10, the confrontation scene, I love how Asuka just totally brings Kumiko down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like she calls her out on everything. Like all of that, like standing on the sidelines, not wanting to put yourself out there because you're afraid of, I don't know, what other people are gonna say or think, or that you're gonna hurt. You know, it's like so like staying within yourself and being afraid to put your feelings and thoughts on the line. Like the way that she just totally, the framing of the scene and everything too, like Asuka is like has this like huge aura around
and
her.
the spider and the spider as well.
And the shot of the spider web like trapping Kumiko. It's the scene is just like so heavy there. And then as Asuka turns to leave, I love the way that Asuka's arc and Kumiko's conflict with her sister are intertwined. And like how what happens between Kumiko and Mamiko informs how Kumiko handles the situation with Asuka, and then back again with Kumiko's ultimate, saying "I love you" to Mamiko. I think that's something that you don't see in a lot of anime, where it's like things happen arc by arc by arc. You know, it's like, and maybe stuff builds from arc to arc. Like a character will take something they've learned from the previous arc into the next one, but like for those to be going on at the same time.
Concurrent arcs. Right?
Exactly. There's concurrent arcs. It's not something you see too often. And in UFO, with these two arcs, I think it's handled just perfectly.
Right.
I really agree. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like in TV, they talk about the A plot and the B plot, right? But like, it feels like more like a 1A, 1B plot than a B plot. Like they're both at the forefront. Like if it was just Asuka, like her wanting her father to acknowledge her wanting to be able to perform at nationals, her wanting to like prove her mother wrong, like that in itself is like a worthy A plot for any show. And then we also have, and like I love how we have to say like also have, like we also have Kumiko and like Mamiko, and like Jack, you mentioned the exchange of the sheet music scene at the end, but also for me when Kumiko goes after Mamiko on the bridge, and of course, like, oh my god, Yufo, how are you so good at like nighttime shots? Like things don't look that good in real life at night. Not everyone is perfectly illuminated by the passing headlights of cars. Like that just. But
I definitely think
gorgeous.
that the portrayal of their relationship is easily one of the most true to life sibling relationships I've seen in anime.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a sister who's younger than me, and I was like, well, I feel like a really shitty sister after watching this.
Honestly, one of the scenes that hit me the hardest was I want to say that it's either episode 9 or 10. I think it's 10. Where Kumiko and Mamiko kind of like have that like hashing out together as Mamiko is attempting and failing to cook dinner.
Great, yeah.
And then the next day, Kumiko wakes up and her parents tell her that Mamiko's left for college. And then that scene with Kumiko on the train, just like thinking about her sister. And then she's got tears coming down before she even realizes it.
Right. Oh my gosh.
And then that, like hits her how much she does care about her.
Yeah.
As a younger sibling myself, that hit me like so hard because I was like, yeah, that I can relate to that feeling a lot of having older siblings and stuff that, you are close to, but then maybe, siblings go through all kinds of ups and downs. But like when they're gone, that empty feeling you're left with, even if you don't necessarily realize it at first, like, yeah, I could really feel Kumiko there.
Yeah, I actually called my sister after I watched that. I was like, yeah, because I am the oldest between the two of us. I'm the older one. And I like, that was like extremely affecting for me personally. Like watching Kumiko go through this, I related more to Mamiko, obviously. Leaving home and all that, having these arguments with my parents, her parents in this case. But just like thinking about Kumiko's emotions here, they're portrayed so well, and we see that like in the passengers on that train watching her cry. It just like really hits you. Yeah.
Oh god. Yeah.
I think isn't that cool though? Like how like two different characters in the same conflict, and on both sides it's portrayed so well that I can relate so beautifully to Kumiko and how she handles the situation, and then you from like an older sibling perspective relate more to Mamiko. It's the way it's handled on both sides I think is just incredible.
Yeah, it's totally spot on.
Yeah, and for me, as someone who's an only child, I was like, wow, this is not relatable, but it's gorgeous, and it's amazing.
Just have to take
Maybe you were the person, like, sitting across and, like, watching Kumiko
I'm the person on the train. Also, yet again, Kyoto Animation with a beautiful train scene. Like,
God, you're right.
Yeah, a great train scene. Yeah, like the riverbank scene, like, what's the samurai flamenco like screenshot again? Like, why is everyone always so honest by riverbanks? But like it just felt so, like, even for me who, like, again, no siblings, like, it just felt so real, and I just felt like so much for both of them because they felt real to me. Like, it wasn't like, oh, like, that's relatable because it's a self-insert character. It's relatable because, like, it's relatable to the human experience. And, like, while I might not have, like, blood siblings, like, close friends who are older than me who went off to college, who I miss, or, like, just, like, close relatives and stuff like that, like, people go through these similar feelings of loss.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be immediate, blood-related family. Like, family comes in a lot of different forms. Like, I think it just speaks to that close relationship that you have with people.
Exactly.
Well, exactly, and then you see it mirrored between Kumiko and Asuka.
Exactly.
And it's perfect, in that way. Just a shout out to Takeda Ayano for writing the original novels here.
Oh my gosh. Like, first of all, like, what a franchise. And, like, I remember reading that she, like, didn't expect this to come out this way, and just, like, imagine being the novelist and, like, living in Kyoto and, like, writing this, like, novel series, and then, like, getting the call from your agent being like, yeah, Kyoto Animation wants to adapt your novel work, and you're like, the Kyoto Animation? Like, am I hearing you right? Is there, like, a knockoff Kyoto Animation I haven't heard about?
And then they asked her to continue writing, and that's what actually spawned the rest of the series.
Exactly.
And recently, just a fun fact, she visited Todo High School, which is the high school that the Kitoji High School is based off of, the real high school. She visited their wind ensemble.
Oh,
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
really
awesome.
cute photos from that, by the way.
Man, it's great. I also love the fact that, like, this is all set in Kyoto.
Yeah.
Like, we get so many anime that are set in Tokyo or set in, like, foreign lands and stuff like that. But, like, for me, this being set in Kyoto and having, like, then gone to Kyoto,
yeah,
it just, like, just feels so authentic and real.
Yeah,
and it's like,
that's actually
the
something.
fact that it's set in Uji specifically,
Yes.
like,
Yes,
where
absolutely.
KyoAni is located, is
Right.
headquartered.
Yes.
I mean, that's like one of the things that I absolutely wanted to touch on in this, because you feel the authenticity of the place in UFO. It becomes one of the defining elements of the series, like the riverbank, Daikichiyama, the school itself. There are all these places in the show that are based on these real life places, and that are like become characters in and of themselves in the show in many ways. They lend color to different scenes. Their emotion associated with certain places, Kumiko's bench. And that's like one of the advantages of having this set in Uji, where Kyoto Animation is. They bring out that like really authentic feel for the setting. And that's something that I would say, if you're ever in Japan and you like UFO, go to Uji. It's amazing.
I feel like any Kyoto Animation work, go to Kyoto.
Well,
like,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the K-On school is now like a museum for K-On because it shut down.
Well, basically, yeah.
Yeah, and then Tamako's Market is based off a real life market that has amazing mochi. Would 100% recommend. And
Yeah,
obviously you have Hibike Euphonium, and like just the Uji River being there. It's just, first of all, it looks gorgeous, and it's like, especially if you visit there in the summertime, it just.
I want to go for
It's
the
weird.
Agata Festival.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like, I don't know, because I only went there after seeing these shows, right? Like, I don't know if Kyoto had that like somewhat like hyper realistic, like almost fictionalized story feel to it before, or if they just like captured it so well that that's what I imagine when I go there.
Well, an interesting thing about Uji is that it's where a lot of Genji Monogatari takes place. So
They have
Tale
the
of
museum
Genji.
there.
Yeah, and that's actually what it was famous for as a tourist spot before UFO. A lot of people go there for that. They have like statues and the museum, as you said. Now there's a good mix of anime in there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. One of my friends went to Uji last summer, I think it was, and he got like this like sound euphonium map of the city that has like all like the landmarks called out on it. And he sent it to me. Yeah, I've got it on my shelf here. I'm like, I want to actually use that.
Yeah. That's at the Uji Tourism Center. Yeah.
Oh man,
I want to go so bad.
Yeah, you should. You totally should.
Oh my gosh.
Really recommend it.
Recommend it to
They
all of you
actually
out
there
there.
was some construction this year so that the river from where about where Kumiko's bench is down a ways to around, actually maybe past, but at least encompassing where Kumiko and Reina watch the fireworks in the first episode of season 2, which is another scene that's wonderful and not homosexual. But it's like a little different now, which is unfortunate. I only went there after it had gotten changed.
Well, I know that the fireworks festival too is like, it used to be an annual tradition in Uji, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they discontinued it. And part
Yeah,
of the
it hasn't
reason
been
that
held in a few years.
part of the reason that Takeda wanted to include it was, or can't remember if it was Takeda that first thought of including it, or the anime staff. But I know that they wanted to include it just to kind of like keep that spirit alive, like a sort of like a testament to it.
Ishihara talks about how he wanted to get it really authentic,
Right.
like such that he wanted to make sure that the announcements reverberated properly, so that people who live there and have been to this festival would think it was realistic.
Right.
Even though it hasn't been held in multiple years. Which is like really a testament to how dedicated they were to capturing
Right.
the area.
And that's also true. The level of detail, like we talk about the character acting and animation, of course that's true, but also with the instruments and the
yes.
band itself. Like, as someone who did play a lot of brass instruments, like I can't speak to the woodwinds, but like just like when they take their breaths, when they like the fingering that they do on the instruments along with the music, it's like first of all, we are talking about an industry where they can't even match up the mouths to the words most of the time. And then you're telling me they go back and they match up the movements of the actual musicians to the soundtrack? Like, that's crazy. And like all the instruments look so true to life. They look so realistic. The I can't imagine how difficult it was to nail the reflections you get at like the bell of a trumpet or the bell of a euphonium or tuba.
Yeah. Shout out to Takahashi.
Yes.
Big shout out. Yeah.
Yes. The mechanical designer. Yes.
Yeah.
Takahashi's one of the
instrument
best.
designer. Yeah. For this.
I mean, because he also did Violet Evergarden, and
Yes.
that's incredible too. Like,
Yes. Oh my god.
Also in charge of the instruments in K-On!
And K-On! Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, like everything just looks so great. And also, you know what I just realized? Maki, when you talked about the fireworks scene, I think that's the first time we even like kind of mentioned Reina in season 2.
Ah, well, yeah, we can go there now.
Ooh, what was that tone?
Well, you know, it's like that's what people bring up a lot, right? With season 2 is like, where's Reina? And I think that thinking about it in those terms is kind of unfortunate because it's like so crucial to Kumiko and Reina's relationship towards the end of the season 2 that she isn't there for a while.
Right.
Yeah,
and like first of all, they have that moment. I forget. Oh god, I'm so bad with remembering episode numbers, but it's the one where she goes to Taki Sensei and like they do the most dramatic like exchange of keys.
That's towards the end of this.
Yeah.
That's towards the end. That's after. Yeah, that's after they've like made up.
Right, but like that is just so gorgeous and so beautifully well done. And
I'm pretty sure that's episode 9 because I want to say that that's the episode that Akiko Takase was the animation director for.
Yeah.
I remember that from my Evergarden research.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and just like it looks so gorgeous, but you're right. It's after they've made up because, you know, Kumiko has been holding back this crucial fact that like Taki Sensei's wife has died.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's important and like right, because we touched upon it a little bit with the season 1 discussion about Reina's. It feels weird to call it a schoolgirl crush.
Well, it's definitely a crush.
Right. But it's like
A little intense for a crush, but that's what it is. Yeah.
It's these passionate feelings. Let's go with that.
There
She
you go,
has with Taki. For Taki, it's just like it feels really unfortunate that they do have this falling up, but it also again feels realistic because like when you're that close to someone, like this, like falling outs mean that much more. And I think they handled that really realistically and like really well. And I think that actually helped Kumiko along as a character because
to bring it back to Daikichiyama,
yes,
for them to like make up,
right,
is great.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and like that scene is gorgeous and like it never like feels like they explicitly say like we are making up now, we're okay again. It's like that understated like understanding between two people who just like really care for each other,
that coming back together.
So.
The way that scene mirrors, in particular with some of the shots, the way that it mirrors the one from episode 8 of the previous season too. It mirrors it, but it's like there's a little bit less of that magic behind it when they're you know at odds with each other. But I think it comes that like ethereal vibe kind of comes back when Kumiko reaches out to Reina and like grabs her hand, and that's just a really sweet moment. Yeah. Like she's there for her friend, you know.
Right. She'll support her. Yeah.
Right.
Which is another thing that's somewhat controversial, I think, for some people.
Some people.
Well, I don't dislike it. I really like their relationship here, and I like Reina's obsession in a lot of ways because I think it's charming. It's an interesting aspect of her personality. It makes sense to me for her to have this sort of like one-sided obsession. It's like she's obsessed in general. For one thing, becoming special, just like being the best that she can be, and it makes sense that she has this crush on like Taki Sensei, who's awesome and like an excellent conductor.
I just wanted to get over it because I wanted to get that Kumi Ray train rolling again.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Okay, sorry. Sorry, I know. Yes, no. Well, that's exactly why a lot of people don't like it, and I think that's totally fair. You know, your ship is valid.
I know that is a big reason that people are apprehensive about the upcoming movie. Just to segue a little bit.
Yeah, because we just recently got the teaser visuals for the movie.
Yeah, the newest one. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut, but I think that people are gonna be happy with the way Reina is treated in the film, the way that they were in season 1.
Look, all I'm gonna say is that we've had enough of this euphonium stuff, okay? We need to go back to the trumpets.
Well, it's actually funny that you mentioned that you played trumpet, because I never mentioned this, but I did also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
not for that long, actually.
You understand like the arrogant trumpet stereotype.
Well, and that's why I didn't continue to play it, because I'm not very arrogant.
Yeah.
Maybe you are. I don't know.
No. That's why I'm like. I mean, I was. I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't. I literally said I was going. I thought about being a trumpet performance major, but after like a year out, I was like, man, that was a really toxic and like mentality to have. Like, why was anyone friends with me? Like, no, but like it's the same thing with Reina, right? Like, she's so driven and like so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Self-centered has a negative connotation, but like as unnegative connotation-y we can have it. Like
she's focused on improving herself.
Yes.
She's focused on like herself as a person,
right?
Not necessarily to the detriment of others, but like she sees it as fair because she assumes that other people should be doing that as well.
Yes. So
that's another thing that's interesting about the show is I see constantly from people who are in band are like, this is like super realistic.
Yeah.
Guys.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's something I've appreciated too, as someone without a musical bone in my body who has never had any experience in any sort of band. Like it could be completely unrealistic and I wouldn't know. But yeah, seeing people who have that experience share that and say like, God, this is relatable. You know, yeah, it just makes it that much richer.
So I think that's actually a good way to dive into what the series has meant to us, like on a personal note. No pun intended, I guess. Because like this is all firmly in each one of our favorites, and I would say like definitely one of the most influential works of any medium in my life. So I guess I can start.
Go ahead.
For me, just like it was one of the first ones that like really challenged me to look at anime as a medium that could be critically reviewed and critically watched, and understanding that like there were a lot of small details to pay attention to, and that anime could tell these stories that I didn't think were possible in the medium. And this especially came to a head, like I mentioned, like how Reina was important, but especially came to a head with Asuka in season 2. And like we touched upon a little earlier about how like Asuka's mom kind of was trying to get Asuka to quit the band so she could focus on her studies and focus on her education. And to me, that was like, oh my god, that was like 1-to-1 adaptation of my life senior year. With like my mom trying to get me to like not go to band, and like when I was like one of the section leaders and like very involved within our marching band and our concert band, and like it just brought up a whole well of feelings that like I had like repressed for so long, because that's healthy. But I think that's something that like Hibike Euphonium does so well. It says like, it basically says you should not be ashamed to feel so strongly about things.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
that you want to pursue things so like without restraint is something that should be celebrated, and that is what music is, and that's what music demands. And I think that's something we see with each character there, who whether it's Haruka, right? The saxophone president.
Yes.
When
yes,
she
yes.
does her solo, and with Asuka and with Natsuki, and like all this, like, that's the recurring idea that when you love something, like, don't be ashamed of how much you love it. Just like really pursue it. And I think that's like a mentality that I'm really thankful for now. And I think it's something that like really came from this. And of course, it also exposed me like even further to Yamada. Long may she reign. Because like I had gone from K-On! To UFO, and then I was like, wow, like these two things had Kyoto Animation and Yamada in common. Maybe I should watch some more stuff. And then that's how I got to watching Tamako Market and Tamako Love Story, which I don't know if people knew, but I kind of like Tamako Market and Tamako Love Story.
Oh, is that what that icon's all about?
Yeah, it's not like we're heading up on the 4th annual rewatch of Tamako Market and Love Story on our anime, which everyone should totally join.
I mean, I will say Tamako Love Story, I rank 3rd all
yes.
time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love Tamako Love Story.
It's so good, and it has the same principle, right? The same Yamada thing of just being like so unabashedly in love with this medium. And I think if anyone has like if there's any message you should come out with this from UFO, it's that you should resound, right? That you should resound, euphonium, trumpet, whatever instrument that you are, that you should resound. So
Yeah, I would totally agree. I touched on this a little bit earlier, but before I watched UFO, I feel like I was really hypercritical of a lot of things, including myself, and wasn't often honest about what I was interested in or wanted. And I that's one of the things that I think that UFO has really given me as a person. I think a lot about the end of season 1 in their performance and the competition. Kumiko has this moment where she's thinking, like, wishes don't come true unless you mean it. And that's like what impacted me the most, maybe. Like, she is so honest at the end of the show, at the end of the first season. She's honest about her passion. She's honest about what she wants. She hasn't figured it out entirely. She hasn't figured out her life, but she knows what she wants to do then and there. And that's like something that has meant a lot to me, and has inspired me to like go back to school. And even after I watched UFO, I mentioned this before, I wasn't a fan of Yamada at first, or KyoAni in general. But I went back and was more honest with how I felt about her works, and more like emotion forward works in general, I think. Like UFO, where it's like the emotion packs a punch, I guess. So like that's what UFO has meant to me personally. It's like incredibly inspiring. I found Kumiko inspiring. I find it touching, you know, and I'm like a very different person than I was over a year ago. And if you come visit me on the Kyoto Animation Discord, you can see a collage of the comments I used to make. It's not pretty, but it's who I used to be. And I am really glad that I am more honest these days than I was then. And that's the whole truth.
Yeah, I think what you said about being honest with yourself really speaks to me. Like that's something that I got from not just the show, but Kumiko specifically. When I first watched it, I felt a lot like Kumiko, in the sense that just kind of like doing things just because you feel like that's what's expected of you, and not really diving into and reflecting on what you want to do and what you want out of your life. And I think seeing Kumiko discover what that means to her, and then unabashedly chase after that, has really been inspiring to me. I think if you asked me where I would be 3 years from now, before I watch Sound Euphonium, the answer I would have given you would be totally different than where I am now. And I think that Sound Euphonium is a big reason why. It's had a tangible impact on my life in that watching it made me reevaluate what it is I thought I wanted to do after college and going forward. And I've changed my plans because of it. But it's also had less tangible impact, in the sense that, there's very few characters that when I watch them, I feel like I'm watching myself reflected on screen. And Kumiko's probably the biggest example of that. But at the start of the series, I felt like I saw myself in Kumiko, but by the end, I find myself wanting to be like her. She inspires me, like, not just chasing after your passion, but being honest in doing so, and honest with yourself and your feelings towards others and towards what you love. I think when these two films were first announced, Liz and the Bluebird and Oats Finale, I was ecstatic about Liz and the Bluebird, right? Because it was Naoko Yamada. I was like, oh my god, let Yamada direct a film taking UFO characters. Like, yes, give me that. But I was a little apprehensive about Oats Finale, just because I wasn't sure if we needed to see more of this story, but because of how perfect that ending was to the TV series. Like, it felt like such a wonderful send-off with the Hibike Euphonium reveal and all that. But the more I thought about it, I realized, like, Kumiko's not done growing. While, yes, she's become, an anchor for people to rely on and support, like, her journey isn't just going from a wish, that, like, apprehensive, go with the flow person into a more steadfast, honest one, but in becoming a leader. And I think that's the aspect of Kumiko's growth that I'm so excited to see, both in Oats Finale and maybe even beyond. Because I don't know if you guys saw this, but it was recently announced that Takeda is publishing the third year novels. Shortly. It'll happen kind of like concurrently as Oats Finale premieres in theaters in Japan. I think it's gonna be like April and May. Whether those get adapted into animation, we'll see. I'm certainly keeping my fingers crossed. Just because at this point, it's like, all right, it was, if you were going to continue the story after the first year, can't leave it hanging here after the second year. You've got to see it come full circle.
It's really interesting because with K-On!, Yamada turned down the idea of doing K-On! College and K-On! High School. It was as she was already doing Tamako, but like there was very much a turning down of it. But with UFO, like I never expected it to get a second season, to be honest. Like I just felt like season 1 just ended so well. And so nicely, and like, as an anime watcher, you kind of get jaded to the fact that things don't get picked up for second seasons, and that oftentimes you don't get continuations. But to see,
you get to buy the novel.
Right, and so their adventures continued. And I thought that was gonna happen with UFO, and I was gonna be completely happy with that. But like, seeing that they have precedent with Free, and how they keep printing money with that and keep printing out adaptations, and the fact that like Liz got greenlit, like, oh my gosh. Like, how the heck did someone sit down with like the Kyoto Animation people and all the sponsors and the production committee and be like, all right, so we got Yamada Naoko, let's let her do like this art house-esque film called Liz and the Bluebird. It doesn't even have the franchise's name in the title, so like some people like Shaw on the Art Anime podcast don't even realize it's the UFO movie. Let's give it like these weird character designs. Let her like get really
okay, don't say weird.
These
you
unique,
mean beautiful,
gorgeous, but not standard character designs.
Absolutely.
Well, and certainly a 180 from the pre-established designs.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes. and then be like, okay, like let's give them enough money and leeway where they can literally go into the school and like tap on the chairs to make sure that they, like,
bless Kensuke Ushio.
oh my
Yeah, I
god,
love him.
oh my god, just like what a composer. Thankfully, like I know like the music in UFO as well, just like being so gorgeous.
Oh yeah, it's
Shout out
wonderful.
to Akito Matsuda, who does the concert, even and did Liz and the Bluebird too.
Yeah,
with the concert,
absolutely. Yeah.
Just like
I think though, what is really cool about the UFO series in general, and that part of what pairs so well with Yamada's style is the fact that Takeda Ayano has a similar way of going about looking at her characters that Yamada does, where she thinks about them as people who live beyond the pages of her books. And I think that's something that's really unique to the series, and that makes it feel so natural to get more in many ways, because it feels like they're such real people. They're such real characters. They're relatable. They feel like they are living outside of the screen in many ways. And I think that's something that is has really been something for me from the series that has impressed me a lot.
yeah, it's and I think I saw it in a video by someone about how like Kyoto Animation also did something similar with Violet Evergarden, like how like certain characters would have like dirt under their fingernails, and like the small details that like they do there to like really ground it in fiction. And of course, these are fictionalized characters; these are stories, but like just because they're stories doesn't mean we have to take them lightly or treat them lightly.
Exactly.
So
That's one of the things that makes animation as a medium so interesting, is that every single shot you see on there is 100% completely controlled. You know, there's nothing incidental going on screen. Like somebody has to make the decision to put that there. And I think Kyoto Animation at large does just such a great job of knowing how to make the best use out of every frame, how to convey characters' emotions, how to convey information, dialogue, background, everything, and make the use of the frame and the space that they're allotted. And I think UFO is one of the shining examples of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And Liz as well. Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's all we have to talk about UFO for today. Although honestly, I think if we didn't set like an outline and a guideline for ourselves, we could probably be gone for the 8 hours that YouTube Hangouts allows us to.
Yeah, I could probably talk a lot more, but
We could certainly go on endlessly.
yeah.
But alas, the next piece will be played, as Kumiko likes to say. But thank you again so much to Maki and Jack for coming on. Maki, if people want to reach out to you or talk to you or see more of your thoughts on Nozomizo, especially when you might have had a few drinks in you, where can they find you?
Please, my Twitter handle is __ makimaki0. It's a reference to Tomoko Market character song for Kana, the carpenter. That's where Makimaki comes from.
I am ashamed of myself that I didn't understand. I didn't get that reference.
Yeah.
I need to be stripped of my rewatch host rights.
Please, send me a message, follow me. I would love to talk about this series more. I'm always looking for more people to talk to about it.
And we'll also include a link to the Kyoto Animation Discord below.
Oh, yeah.
So you guys are always welcome to join in there.
I need to get in
usually
on that.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
It's great. There's a lot of crying over UFO and Yamada. I just want to
Well, then I'll be right at home.
And Jack, where would you call your home? Where can people find you if they want to see more of your work, in case they, for some reason, don't already know?
Yes, so again, my name is Jack, also known as Kumiko's Euphonium. You can find me there on Twitter. Right now I'm Kumiko's Euphonium. I was particularly proud of that one.
That's good, yeah.
My Twitter handle is @JackUTS, and I run a YouTube channel called Under the Scope, where I predominantly do video essays and anime analysis with some more personal videos. And in particular, I love to cover all things Kyoto Animation, all things Yamada, and all things UFO. And I think that that's the work I'm always most passionate about. So hopefully that comes through.
Yeah, and
I think it does.
Yeah, as someone who's been watching for a while, I can also agree. And I would also say it's great, especially because there's been that recent surge, like not recent, like over like a year and a half, 2 years ago, starting from when Koi no Katachi came out, where like the upsurge of Yamada videos started coming out, and like everyone wanted to get in on it. I was like, no, UTS is an OG.
Yeah. I put my first like really in-depth Yamada video was shortly before Koi no Katachi came out.
I think that's the Edge of the Universe one, right?
Yeah,
or like standing at the entrance of the universe. Yeah.
Excellent line, by the way.
Yes, so good. And it has got the shot from Tamako Love Story as well, so you know it has to be good.
Yeah, and then I recently made a Liz and the Bluebird video too. That was completely using trailer footage, which was pretty difficult.
Yeah,
I was really impressed, honestly.
Yeah, that one I edited that one, and whew, that was it was the tight squeeze there to get 8 minutes out of nothing but trailer footage and behind the scenes stuff.
Oh yeah, but it was also great because for me, I didn't realize it was just trailer footage because I actually was so. You mentioned how nervous you were for Oath finale. I was so nervous for Listen to Bluebird. I refused to watch any trailer for it.
Oh man.
I'm just like, I love it so, like I love UFO and Yamada so much. Like, what if it's bad? What if I don't like it? I was so nervous, and then of course, like I love it. So
just have to trust. Trust her.
Trust in Yamada, we trust. And again,
Taylor and I actually met up after the screening.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and maybe we both cried a little bit.
Maybe.
You know, I don't know.
A little bit. There was a lot of sobbing in the theater, and I'm pretty sure that was just like me and Rocky. Just sobbing throughout the entire thing. And like I had joked like, oh, I guess I might cry, but no, I cried a lot. And it was fine. It was fun. And that's what Yamada does to us.
Yep.
Yeah, she's pretty good at that.
Yeah, she is.
Yes,
oh my
she
gosh.
is.
K-On! Made me cry so much. Tamako's made me cry so much. Koei made me bawl like a baby.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh man.
And like UFO's. Oh man. Anyway, that's we can talk about Yamato until they kick us out. But thank you again, everyone, for listening to the Our Anime podcast. We have our episodes on iTunes, on Spotify, on Simplecast. Please join our Discord as well. We always have great conversation there about everything from our podcasts to anime, to even a sports channel, a JoJo spoiler discussion channel, which I haven't been able to enter into. That's why I always bring it up. I'm always just like, man, if only one day I can be caught up enough on JoJo to go into the JoJo spoiler channel.
I'd get on that sports channel too.
Yes. Oh god. Oh, we can talk about that more too. Until next time, where hopefully all of us have gone the complete set twice over. Stay tuned, and thanks for listening.